And hello everyone, welcome back to another C++ tutorial. So in the previous tutorial we talked about STL or Standard Template Library Arrays. And in the few videos before that one we talked about arrays. In this tutorial we'll be talking about vectors. Now if you haven't seen my video on arrays or STL arrays, I do recommend you do, because they cover very important topics that we will use in this tutorial. So what is a vector? A vector is just an array. However, unlike an array, but similar to an STL array, a vector knows its length. But also, unlike STL and normal arrays, vectors do not have a set size that it has to be. Vectors can be about any size you want to put it. And this makes them incredibly powerful and helpful. So let's create our first vector. Now first we need to import vector, and now we can use it. So first it's std vector, and then the type you want to store inside of this. This scenario, I want to store an integer. And then data, because we're going to store some data, and then 1, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that will work perfectly fine. Now we have created our very first vector. As you can see, it's just like an array. So let's for through this vector and see what we have. So here we go. We created a for in loop, which I talked about in a previous video, if I'm not mistaken. And we're passing in I. Now if we run this, we get 1, 4, 5, 6. So everything inside of this vector. Now we have cool functions such as getting the size of this vector. So cout data.size. Now if you run this, we'll get 4 because it is 4 items in length. However, now we can do something pretty cool. We can go here and say data.pushback, and let's say 69. Nice. Now this right here will add 69 to the end of this vector, the end of this array. If we were to run this, first you'll notice the size went up to 5, and here at the end we have a 69. Because pushback adds it to the end of the vector, and we can have as many of these as we want. Go to the same and run this. There we go. And just like with an STL array, we can go here and say capacity. Now if we run this, then we get 4. So it's the same as size. And of course we can also go max size. If we run that, then that will give the maximum size this vector can be. Cool. We can also do something such as data.resize and then specify its new size. Now if we were to run this, then now you'll notice that it says 9 here, and it fills the rest of the open spaces with zeros. So when we resize, we add some default dummy data in here. So this is the way you can give it like a size it has to be from the start. But what if we have more than what we resize it to? So if I say resize 2, what will happen? Because we have 4 items here. If I say resize 2, then it will do what? It will still resize it. It will just remove the rest because we resized it. So anything that is after that size can be just discarded. You can also get if a vector is empty or not by going here and saying empty. So just like in the previous video where we did this, but with STL arrays, you can do the same here. So it will be false. In this scenario, that would be 0. But if we resized this to 0 and then ran it, then it will be 1 because it's true. Cool. You can also get specific items in it. For example, you could say put index 0. If we run that, we'll get item at index 0, which is 1. If we were to specify an index that does not exist, then we'll just get 0. You can also use .at, and this can also be the same. So .at is the same as using an index. However, this time if it's out of bounds, it will throw an error to tell you, hey, that does not exist. So it depends on if you want an error to be thrown, if you are trying to get data that does not exist, or if you don't want to. And in here, of course, if you say 2, then you will get the item at index 2, which is 5. Then you can go .front to get the first item in the array. And you can also go .back to get the last item in the array, or should I rather say the vector. Run that and we get 1 and 6. Cool. You can also go data.assign, and let's go 2 and 10. If we were to run this, and if we add our semicolon, and then run this, then we'll get 10 and 10. So it will replace all of the items inside of this vector with just 2 10s. So if we were to make this 610, then it will give us 6 10s. So this will replace everything in here, so just be careful with this assign. So let's quickly display data.size again. Another cool feature you can use is clear. So if you go .clear and then run it, then we'll get 0 items inside of this array, this vector, because clear empties or clears the vector. Cool. And then one last thing is if you want to create a vector with a vector inside of it, because some people might want to do that, is you do this, and then inside of here you go std vector, and then you specify the data type, which can be a string or an int or whatnot. In this scenario, I'm going to say int. And this will contain a vector within a vector. So now we can go here, and you can go 1, 6, 8, 2, 3, 99, 32, 12, 8. Just like that. And in here we can go for std vector int in data, and it should of course be v or whatever you want to call it. And then here you can move this up for I and v, and just like that we can now display all of the items inside of this vector. There we go. That's cool. You could even go here and say cout and add some dashes underneath each one, and maybe even remove this indal part here, and maybe add a space. Now if you run this, you'll get this. Of course it didn't quite work out as what I hoped, so let's just add a backslash in, and now it'll work out as I hoped. There we go. So as you can see, so this one will loop through this vector, so this one right here, if we were to do that, so it will loop through this. And in this for loop, we'll loop through each one of these. Yeah, we did cover this in the first array tutorial, I believe. And yeah, that is the basics on vectors inside of C++. They're great if you want a dynamically sized array, so one that does not require you to give it a specific size, that you can increase and decrease as you please. And yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all again in the next C++ tutorial.